and thank you for joining me on the Time Is Always Now podcast. My name is Terence Young. I'm your host for the podcast today. This is a podcast that is dedicated to helping people get past their excuses, helping people say, you know what, I'm not going to wait for the right time because the right time is right now. So I'm going to move forward and change my life for the better right now. This is a podcast that is dedicated to harnessing the power in the eternal moment of now. So each and every week we talk about subjects that are affecting us today, and we talk about ways and tangible ways we can make changes in our lives right now to make a change for the better, and to collectively be able to change the consciousness of our world, to change it for the better for everyone. That's what this podcast is about. So I appreciate you joining me today. If you want to donate to the cause, by all means, you can go to my website. It's terenceyoungnow.com. That allows me to continue to do what I do. So I appreciate you and your support. Thank you so much for that. I am super excited about a few things. I talked to you all last week, in the last couple of weeks, about starting the talks that we're going to be doing on Zoom. So we are starting on this Tuesday, which will be June 2nd, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for an hour. Zoom, that way I can speak and we can all converse together and have a conversation. So I'm really excited about what we're going to be talking about on Tuesday, which is racism in America, a hot topic of what's going on right now. And is it getting worse, or is it just getting filmed and we're seeing it now? How do we change it? How do we change the experience that people of color are experiencing in our world right now, and make it better? And how we do that through our spirituality, by changing the consciousness of our world. So I'm excited about that talk. I hope you will join me Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, from 9 to 10. So join me there. We're going to have a great time. We're going to have an open dialogue and have a lot of fun. Today, I'm going to be talking briefly about touching on that subject. I mean, how can we not, with everything that's going on in our world, how can we not discuss what's going on as far as race relations, the protests that are going on right now, and everything? So a couple of things that I want to go over, and here's the topic that I want to discuss today. It is this: you have to have a purpose to your protest, right? I'm all for protesting. I'm all for protesting. I'm so for that. And I'm grateful that I live in a country where we're allowed to protest and not be condemned for it, not be put in jail for it, not be killed for it, like it could happen in other countries. So I'm proud of the fact that I live in a country where we can do that. However, I believe that there must be a purpose to that protest, because that's the whole point. If you're protesting something, then you want change to actively happen. Now, it goes on both sides, right? The protesters are doing their part peacefully to have that change, and then the other side needs to enact that change. They need to come together to make that change happen. So it's a give and take. It's a teamwork to make that happen. So we should be seeing that happen in our world. We should be seeing that happen. So first of all, is there purpose to the protest? And I believe, yes, there is. Yes, there is. From what happened to, we're not going to go into everything. We're just going to deal with George Floyd and what happened. Most of you, many of you in this country have seen that video. And we haven't seen the whole thing, but it says for almost 8 minutes, yet the cop had his knee on the man's neck, and the man said, "I can't breathe." I mean, he said, "I can't breathe." There's 3-4 cops there, cops standing all around, and nobody decided, hey, maybe you should take your knee off his neck so he can breathe. We've got to do better than that. I mean, as an African American myself, I know there's pain that comes from seeing that. There's pain that comes from seeing how he had to experience that, how his family had to experience that, how the people standing around had to experience that. It shouldn't be like that in our country. It shouldn't be like that anywhere, period. We should never have it, and we should be progressing and getting better as humankind, because we're all the same. So we need to work towards that. I'm all for working towards that. I'm going to use my voice. my leverage, everything I can to help bring that forward. And this, what I'm doing right now, is a part of that. So there's got to be purpose to the protests, and I believe in the protest. There's a reason to be protesting, absolutely. Having said that, I believe protests should be peaceful. I live in Tampa, Florida. We're seeing all kinds of violence breaking out now, looting and rioting during the protests, and it's not everybody. I think we all know that. No matter where you are in the country right now, in the U.S., lots of cities are seeing this. It's not, most of the people are protesting peacefully. However, there are some who are coming out and they're rioting and they're looting, setting things on fire, and breaking into businesses, and I'm not for that. So let's look at the peaceful protest. This is important because there has to be a purpose. We already established there's a purpose for the peaceful protest. However, you have to be able to make a stand, but there's a line that's drawn there. So I'm all for a protest where you're out on the side of the road and you may even walk down the middle of the road, block traffic. I get it. There's a reason why being peaceful yet still blocking traffic. There's a reason why people do that. You know, a lot of people will say, well, if you're going to protest, just stand on the side of the road so you don't interrupt traffic because people have to go to work and yada, yada, yada. What happens? Answer this question to yourself honestly. If you're driving down the road and you see someone protesting on the side of the road, what happens? Well, nothing. Nothing happens. They're protesting peacefully, they're standing on the side of the road, and I can tell you for myself, I drive right by them. I may see a sign and honk a horn, but I'm going to where I need to go. What makes a protest effective is it agitates something to bring it to the surface. A peaceful protest, now I'm still saying peaceful, but once they start walking down the street and blocking traffic, and now people are saying, well, I can't get to work, or I can't get to my daughter's recital or something like that. Oh, now people pay attention to the protest. I'm for that. That's right, you gotta get someone's attention. And you get their attention, now the cops gotta come out, and now they gotta do something to bring this in and help traffic get through, or do whatever they gotta do. Now you got somebody's attention. Now once you have their attention in your peaceful protests, then you can move forward to the next steps of how to bring about change. So I'm all for a peaceful protest. I'm all for bringing about an agitation in a peaceful way that brings it to the surface, so everybody's talking about it. So all for peaceful protests. Now the flip side of that is what we're seeing now is we are seeing people coming in starting as peaceful, then some people are coming in and literally just being violent, breaking and entering and bombing buildings and things of that nature. That's violence. And that's looting and rioting. Now it's not even about, let's ask the question, is it even about George Floyd anymore? What's the sad thing about this is, for the small number of people who are doing the looting and the rioting, there's no purpose to that. There's no purpose to it. You can see it in the videos. They're breaking into stores and stealing phones and shoes and all this other stuff. Come on, that has nothing to do with George Floyd. It has nothing to do with him. And we have to do better than that. There has to be a purpose to it, a purpose to your protest. There's got to be a purpose. And when you're just out rioting and stealing and looting, that's not the purpose, right? That's not the purpose. I don't see it that way. I'd love to know what you think about it. We're going to talk about this on Tuesday night. I'm excited. Join me there. Let's have an open dialogue. And I'm going to put it in the show notes for this too. Let's talk about it. I don't believe in that. And here's the thing. I know where it's stemming from. Again, coming as a black man, I know that people are hurting. People are tired. People are angry that they haven't been changed before. We can go back to Rodney King and all this other stuff, and it seems to be still happening. So they're taking their frustrations out on anything, right? The unfortunate part about this is when they start rioting and looting, they're actually affecting businesses in their own neighborhoods. They're affecting other small businesses, people who look and work in their communities. And it doesn't even matter who they're affected, because those people have nothing to do with what the real issue is. Again, there has to be purpose to your protests. There has to be a purpose to it. Otherwise, what are you doing? What are you doing? When you're out rioting and looting, you are affecting people who have already been affected by what we have with COVID-19, what we've had with the pandemic. These businesses may just be getting back to opening. They survived the 2 months of shutdown. And then this, that they were not involved in it. They just happened to be at the intersection that this riot broke out. I am all for a peaceful protest. I am totally against rioting and looting. It serves no purpose for the protests. And that is the most important thing. We all need to be at a place, and here is where I am in my consciousness, in my spirituality. I'm always looking to de-escalate a problem, right? I want to have the conversation. I want to get someone's attention, but I want to de-escalate the problem. And what I'm seeing now is people are escalating the problem, making it worse, not better. We've got to be at a point consciously, collectively, where we are all willing to de-escalate the problem and then come to a solution, where we can sit down at a table and iron some things out and come up with real, effective change that's going to make our world a better place. That's what it's about. There must be a purpose to your protest. So important. So important. I'm going to share with you a couple of things that we can do right now. Right? Tangible things we can do right now with our peaceful protests that can bring about change going forward. I understand the Black community, the people of color, minorities are fed up. They're tired. I'm one of you. I'm with you. However, we must do it peacefully. We must do it peacefully. Here is what we can do, and here's what we can do right now. First and foremost, stop anyone that's doing all the rioting and looting. At all costs, we step up. If you're out there peacefully protesting and you see someone right next to you amping it up and wanting to start a riot, start looting a business, step up. Step up yourself. Don't let the cops have to tell them to stop or go get them. You tell them. You tell them. And I'm not saying that's easy, right? Because they're not there for the protest in the first place. That's the problem. That's the first problem. But if you can and you're there, step up and say, hey, that's not why we're here. That's not what this is about. That's the first step. Now, once you've done that, here's some things you can do. How about after you've brought this up, you've done the agitation peacefully, right? How about meeting with your local leaders, meeting with the police chief, meeting with the sheriff's office, and going into how we can bring about effective change in our community. Remember, it all starts in our own community. It all starts with ourselves, right? That's where it starts at. You can't change the world, but you can change yourself. And when you change yourself, you change the world. So instead of going out and trying to change New York or DC or LA, why don't we start where we are, wherever that is? For me, I'm right here in Tampa. Why don't we start here in this local area? Start having real conversations with your local police, your local leaders, right? And how can they bring about change here? What legislation can we bring about? And more importantly than that, you can't police some of these things. Some of these things have to be what people want in their lives. How about teaching people more about spirituality, teaching people more about looking at us all as one and starting that? You know, it may go back to education. You know, all of that matters. So how about we go back to that and have those conversations? Number two, what can we do? How about going in and looking at training for police officers? How about changing the training? How about yearly or even biannually examinations, psychological examinations? I mean, the one that had his showman that had his knee on the neck had like 17 strikes against him. You know, maybe he shouldn't have even been out there in the first place, or maybe he at least should have had some more training about how to handle a situation. It's amazing. I've heard our own police chief here, or former police chief, say that that's not even a way to do it. Like, that's not taught anywhere. Whatever he was doing with the knee on that, that's not even taught. That's not what we do. And I've heard several different police officers say this around the country. They said, that is not a technique. That's not what we do. So why was he doing it? That goes into training. How about let's bring about a peaceful protest where we can have an actual meeting and make changes about the way the police, the sheriff office are trained on what they do, and then start changing the training of them. How about that? That's something we can do now. And then go into our local government. If your local senator or your House of Representatives, that representative for your county, if they're not working with you, if you can't have a meeting with them and speak about how we can bring about change, then what else can you do? You can vote them out, just like we voted them in. Your vote makes a difference. Our vote makes a difference. If we want to bring about change, we can do it. But we must do it peacefully. That's the way we get it done. Doing a peaceful protest, having a purpose to our protest. Not just out vigilante, burning down buildings and rioting and looting. That's not going to bring about change. That's escalating the situation. We need to de-escalate the situation and bring about a real conversation where we can make change and create change in our communities and create a better world for us all. We can all do this. I'm going to leave you with a quote from the late, great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He said this. He said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. And hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." We need to be that love right now. When I say we, I mean all of us collectively. All of us. And we can bring about a change in our world. We can bring about a change in our relationships. We can bring about a change in everything we experience for ourselves and for our future, our children that are coming up, where they won't experience the world that we're living in right now. We can do that. Yes, we can. With that, I'm going to leave you. If you do that, remember this, then we will all be able to unequivocally say, I own the now, and I have won. With that, I'm going to sign off. My name is T.Y. Remember, the time is always now. Allow the universe to work in your favor, and be blessed.